Hey there, it's Mary Barbera here, and I am on for the 29th day in a row. And we have one more day of lives and one more day till the big day when Turn Autism Around gets published. If you are joining me tonight, wherever you're from, let me know in the comments. And we will be talking about the book, talking about tomorrow, and also answering any questions. So let me get our other friends on here and we will get going. Okay, I think we are live here on Facebook, and I am Dr. Mary Barbera. We have one more day until Turn Autism Around is shipping, available. Some of you may have already gotten it. Tomorrow, everybody can get it on Kindle and Audible right away, hopefully. And then if you've pre-ordered the hardcover, it hopefully will be at your doorstep tomorrow or soon after. So if you are here in the comments, let me know where you are viewing from. This is my 29th day in a row. The topic for tonight is just one more day. I'm going to be covering what's in the book, answering any questions you may have, and talking to you about what you can do to help me spread the word tomorrow. So I will just look in the comments, make sure you all can hear me. And I'm not seeing any comments yet, but that could be my system. Who knows? It does show me live. Okay, so for those of you that are new here, anybody here, let me know in the comments where you're viewing from. If this is your first time, let me know that. If you already pre-ordered the book, let me know that. If you're on the book launch team, Maria is here and she says hi. Excellent. Well, at least we know somebody's hearing me. Okay, Darwin's here. From New Hampshire, mom of a 19-year-old young man with autism. Excellent. Lily Daisy's here. And it is the morning in Australia. So it's actually 3:30 in Australia. So I'm wondering, Lily, if you ordered a hardcover, if you could go where you ordered and see if you could get the book on Kindle or Audible. Lynn is from Reading, Pennsylvania. She's a neighbor of mine, it looks like. Yvonne from South Carolina. Lauren's from New York City. Northern Ireland is here. Pre-ordered the book. I have never been to Ireland. That is on my bucket list. We have two from Ireland. We have Belinda and Chera. Okay, so we have one question from Belinda so far. And we can answer that. Ria's here. She's from Maryland. She's been on my podcast. I want one of each, Lily. So go on and see if you can get it on Audible or Kindle. And let me know. You might be able to write our first review, because you can't actually go on to Amazon and write a review, which is going to be really important if you get and love the book, as I think you will. Then if you can write an Amazon review, that would be great. We have a goal. I have a goal set for 1,000 reviews in the next 6 weeks. So we are going to see if we can push that and make that happen. Okay, so Belinda said, what would be your advice when multiple adults are working with a child? Should they each focus on the same skill or toy when working with the child, for example, the same flashcards, the same jigsaw puzzle? Or is it preferable for each adult to pick a different area skill to work on with each child? I actually prefer that you get my book, and chapter 4 is all about assessment. You as the parent are going to become the captain of the ship. Everybody's going to read the book. Would be the ideal situation. You as a parent, with maybe the help of the team, if you have one, you're going to fill out the 1-page assessment form. You're going to then fill out the 1-page plan. And then you're going to gather the early learner materials, like a shoebox with a slit into it, inset puzzles, etc. Mr. Potato Head. Then you're going to have everybody that's working with the child work on similar skills, using similar activities, and similar processes, similar levels of reinforcement, similar data collection. So there are 4 steps to the Turn Autism Around approach. Assessment. I give you a 1-page assessment you can complete in 10 minutes. A 1-page plan. Planning is the second step. Making sure everybody's goals are based on that assessment. Now, you might have an occupational therapist, and she's going to focus more on self-help skills, potentially sensory, fine motor. That's fine. But she can't be like treating problem behaviors differently, or she can't have the child screaming or flopping on the ground, or she can't be giving him a weighted blanket when he's screaming, because that's going to actually undo everything. So you want to make sure each person's goals are in line with the child's assessment. So assessment, planning, intervening should look very similar. When I was in autism classrooms for the first 7 years of my career as a behavior analyst, I was very much in favor of, if I walked into a classroom and somebody was working with a child, I would be happiest if I didn't know if that person was the teacher, the paraprofessional, speech pathologist. I wanted them all to look very similar with working on the same tasks. So, but I think my book will definitely clear that up for you. And you're going to need multiple copies like Lily's going to get, because you're going to need copies for the professionals that work with your child. Hopefully they'll buy their own. Some people like Dr. Tierney, Dr. Cheryl Tierney, who's a developmental pediatrician, she just used a grant to pre-order 100 copies of my book to give out to her patients. If you have any kind of financial funding like that, that might be a good idea. My 23-month-old has quite a few little cousins ranging from 5 to 11 who love playing with him. Have you had any tips or advice for how we can utilize their time with him? Is there any particular way we should direct them to play, or are there certain games you could recommend to get the most out of playtime? We get the book and follow the step-by-step instructions on assessment, planning. They can become little junior therapists, but you are going to have to take the lead, and it can't be really haphazard. Everybody's got to prevent problem behaviors. You're going to have to really be directing. In my online courses, I have where I'm training Scotty, who's Jacob's brother, and I'm training him, and he's 6, and Jacob's 2 or 3, and I'm training the 6-year-old to do potato head with him, but I'm sitting right next to him, kind of guiding Scotty. So yes, they can be really useful, older siblings or cousins. Yeah. Okay. So anybody, so Fanny says, I pre-ordered the book and took the free online course. Not sure if I was supposed to be added to the Facebook group as well. It depends on when you pre-order the book. We have a launch team, but the free online workshop is to give you more information about the course and that sort of thing. So at this point, definitely read the book that you pre-ordered. So thanks for getting that. And then you might feel like you need more, and at which point the online course would be your next best step. Candy said she's from the Bahamas. I've pre-ordered the book on Audible so I can listen to it on the way to work. Excellent. Well, I read the book for Audible, so it is exciting to get this launched into the world. We have somebody from Barcelona, Oregon. Heather is here from Canada. She's taken my courses and been with our community for over 5 years. We have somebody from Dubai. Excellent. So even if your child or clients are in school or in ABA programs, I I still believe that you as the parent or early intervention professionals or professionals for older kids would really benefit from the book. We have chapters on, the first chapter is this early signs of autism are an emergency. So why are we all waiting? And we talk about the statistics and how 1 in 500 kids used to be diagnosed with autism back when my son Lucas was diagnosed in 1999. And now it's 1 in 50 are diagnosed with autism. But another really alarming statistic is 1 in every 6 8-year-old children in the United States is diagnosed with some developmental disorder, actually a diagnosis of either autism, ADHD, speech disorders, learning disabilities, cerebral palsy. There's a few others. But so if 1 in 6 8-year-olds are actually diagnosed with one of these disorders, how many little kids are showing some signs or having some problems with talking or sleep, eating, potty training, going to the doctor's, dentist, haircuts, wearing a mask, all those kind of things this book will address. So chapter 2 is called, Is it Autism, ADHD, or Just a Speech Delay? I've done lives for the last month on all these topics. Chapter 3 is all about safety in the home, school, and community. Chapter on assessment, planning, what materials to gather, how to make a plan, how to make sure goals are appropriate. Chapter 6 is called Stop the Tantrums and Start the Learning. And all problem behaviors don't have to be full-blown tantrums. They could be obsessiveness. I had one little boy who liked to put straws in bottles, but for like hours a day. And that, you might say, well, that's not hurting anything. Yes, it's hurting his ability to learn, to grow, to learn language, to learn how to eat with utensils and all the things that we're falling farther and farther behind. We have 2 chapters. Well, we have a social and play chapter, and then we have 2 chapters on talking, one on basic talking and one on advanced talking. Then the next chapter is on stop picky eating. Chapter 11 is stop playing musical beds. Solve picky eating. Stop playing musical beds. The next chapter is potty training. Then desensitizing doctor, dentist, and haircut visits. There are a lot of kids with autism, little kids who have difficulty wearing masks or getting COVID tests, or even just some toys get unpaired. They don't want to do online intervention. They want the iPad to do what they want. They don't like books, those kind of things. It's all about repairing up things, making the child as happy as possible, as safe as possible for sure, and as independent as possible. So that's what Turning Autism Around is, helping each child reach his or her fullest potential. And this book in particular is really for parents of young children with early signs of autism, with or without a diagnosis, with or without a team of professionals. It's also for the professionals to learn how they can involve parents, how they can work together as a team so that the child, can continue to progress. Okay, Lynn said, my daughter used to want to sleep anywhere but her own bed. Yeah. And Lucas, my son, didn't sleep in his own bed through the night for 10 years until I did 3 simple things that are outlined in the chapter of my book. So musical beds is basically like Lucas would fall asleep in his bed, then he'd come over to my bed, but since my husband had to get up early, I would take him back to his bed and I would sleep with him, because if I didn't, then he'd be up all night, or I might on some nights let him in my bed, and it was just like, or some nights I was like ready to throw him out the window so my husband would sleep with Lucas. And so that's what musical beds is. It's kind of like musical chairs, except for it's with beds. It's kind of like a cutesy way to say no one is getting sleep. All right, D'Amica's here. Can get in London. Yeah, you should be able to get it in London. Just search Turn Autism Around book, London, and see what pops up. If you have an Amazon in your country, it should be there. If you have Audible, Kindle, it should be available tomorrow. It is only in English at this point. We do have some translation rights already signed, contracts for Korea and Chinese. Korean, so those translations have been purchased, Korean and Chinese, but they won't be available in those languages for another 18 months. So hopefully you understand English enough to understand what I'm saying, because if you do, you should be able to listen to the book, read the book, do whatever so that you can understand how to help your child or clients. All right, so Melbong says, got a notification from Amazon that my book is to be delivered tomorrow. Yay. I can't wait to read it. Well, I hope you read it quickly and you can put your Amazon review up as quickly as possible. Remember, when you are putting your Amazon reviews up, make sure to talk about the book, not me personally or these lives or my workshops or my online courses. Sometimes Amazon gets a little funny about that. So really hone into, the safety chapter really is going to help me, really made me open my eyes, or I really love the whole book. It gave me hope, or whatever you want to say. And, as many positive, great reviews, they can be super short. As many really great 5-star reviews as we can get, the better, because there are people that don't like ABA, don't like the thought of ABA, which if you read my book, it is all child friendly. It's really just combining my background as a mom, as an advocate, as a nurse, as a behavior analyst. I'm trying to help each child make all these gains in these individual areas and help to empower parents. I don't think anybody could really read my book and be like, yeah, that's quackery. It's not. It's very simple, but scientifically proven and just positive reinforcement, very child friendly. Daria says, she's from North Carolina. I've taken your courses since last September. I recognize your name. I ordered the book and also the audiobook. I have all your books as my audiobook. I keep listening whenever I need to reevaluate what I'm doing. Gets me rethinking my goals while waiting for ABA to start. I have a question about problem behavior. My daughter bites herself. This has been reduced, but generally she does this when she gets frustrated during table time. Sometimes she does if she does not know the answer, or if I ask her a little, and I see the problem behavior occurring. What would be best suggestion in those situations? I don't want her to think that she can get away from question if she bites herself, but at the same time, I would like to stop. I try to redirect. Would like to make sense to try to teach her to ask for a break at any time. This is what I'm trying now. So, okay, this is an excellent question. And I do just want to start out by saying, even though Daria's in my online course and community, and even if you read the book and listen to these lives and ask a question, I know like 0.0001% about Daria's child. That's all I know is what she just wrote there. So anything I say is for informational purposes only, and only a professional who can see your child, can assess your child, can really look at the whole situation, can tell you, what to do. But I think because you've taken action, you're already in the online course, you've already pre-ordered the book, you're going to read it, you're going to listen to it, you're in a great situation. So let's take this problem behavior of biting herself and use our 4-step Turn Autism Around procedure to answer the question, because I think this is a really good one to talk about. Okay, so I will use a visual just to help us. I've got a little guy here. And I might turn on my little camera here too. That might help us. Just have to be careful not to close our show down here by switching cameras and all that. I have done lots of technical problems. Actually, in the last 29 days, though, I have to give myself some credit. I've technically been pretty strong here, and we haven't had a lot of technical problems. So I am, and yeah, so let me, okay, so the question is about biting. And now I don't know how old the little girl is. Not that that matters, because biting is bad no matter what. Okay, so but the 4 steps are assessment, and this is going to be the biggest thing we're going to look at with anything. Now, she would have asked a question about sleep or a question about talking. We would have started with the first step of the Turn Autism Around approach, assessment. So I want to know not only her child's age, but also ability level. Okay, so she's saying she's at the table doing stuff, and then she's biting her arms, potentially to get away from the materials. So, excuse me, a lot of ABA practitioners will actually say, well, that's escape, let's teach a sign for break or something. That's not really necessarily the Turn Autism Around approach, but I'm going to explain that in a second. But the age and the ability levels and where she's at, like say she's 5, but she's reaching the milestones of a 2-year-old. Okay, so there's a gap there. She's functioning in some levels as a 2-year-old, or I mean, this could be 9-month-old, this, you know, her any age, this could be 5, this could be 11, this could be, don't let it freak out, but we have to know not just their chronologic age, but also the developmental age. The other thing we want to assess is biting. Like I said, biting is bad. It's one of the worst behaviors, because biting can transmit diseases. It'll get you kicked out of daycare or preschool as quickly as any other behavior. So biting is really a problem. But I want to know when she bites, but I first want to know, maybe not when, but I first want to know how many times a day, a week, a month. And my book is actually going to walk you through these procedures. So day, week, and then also how hard is the bite? So the magnitude and where on her body is she biting? So how hard and where, like if she's biting on her knuckle versus biting on her forearm, if she's breaking the skin. So that would be like how hard. Is she also biting other people? And then what makes her bite? And what activities do we have no biting? No biting. Okay, now we don't just look at this, although this is the question, right? We look at the 1-page assessment, because I also want to know, can she talk? So what's her functioning level? This kind of goes back to the milestones and everything. Is she talking? How is she eating? Is she addicted to a pacifier, a bottle? You know, there's so many things. How is she sleeping? You know, up here we could also have what times of the day. So if biting is only, and I'm going to come back on just for a little bit. So if the biting is only occurring at the table versus is the biting occurring when she doesn't want to get a bath? Is the biting occurring when she wants something and you tell her no? So that would be a mixed function. And we talk about the functions of behavior in the chapter on stopping the tantrums. But we have to really get a handle on the assessment. we look at the whole child, the one-page assessment, where they're at with eating, sleeping, allergies, medications, just all kinds of things. And then we dive in specifically to biting. So let me just go back here and make sure that I'm not getting answers to the questions that I'm asking from Daria. And hopefully this is helpful to all of you. All right. Rosa said, I'm new to the podcast. Love listening to you. I have a 6-year-old. Okay, great. All right. Daria says she is verbal, but not fully conversational. Okay. And she can talk, make 2-word sentences. She is good at eating, no sleeping problems. Self-biting is 5 times a day. Okay. This is, this is for leisure during break time. Just that his selection of music. I don't know if that's the same person. Okay. So 5 times a day where I think it's a girl, the child is biting herself. And I'm taking it that she's not biting other people. But 5 times a day is pretty significant. And so let me keep going. And she's verbal, but not conversational. So if you are in my course, make sure you're in the verbal behavior bundle, because that's where we talk about more advanced topics like teaching yes and no and prepositions and pronouns and just all kinds of things. Let me continue on with our little analysis. And I'm going to probably have to, well, I guess I could just turn it over. So the biggest thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do a proper assessment, which is the bulk of your work. And that'll be the 1-page assessment. That'll be a language sample. Be careful not to treat her that she's more high language than she is. Like if she can put together 2 or 3 words, make sure they're not carrier phrases and rote responding and scripting. Like I want cookie isn't really 3-word sentence. I mean, it is, but it's not, we need spontaneity with pivotal phrases and not rote responding. So you're going to want to assess using the 1-page. You're going to assess talking and everything. And it sounds like she's making a lot of progress, which is good, but biting 5 times a day. And I don't know how hard, where she's biting, if she's biting other people. And I still am not clear on how old she is. But that'll give you the first step of the Turn Autism Around approach, which I think is going to be the biggest work for you guys. And then the second step, once you do a thorough assessment, and you can use the book to actually go through these steps, then it's planning, making sure you and everyone else is preventing biting, keeping if it's happening at table time's shorter, more reinforcement. So she's getting lots of reinforcement. So sometimes when it happens that kids are talking more, then it's just like, oh, well, we can go for 30 minutes. They don't need 30 seconds of a movie every 5 responses. Like, come on, we have stuff to do. And it gets where the demands are too high and reinforcement's too low. So that's what you're going to find when you assess if we have biting 5 times a day. I can pretty much tell you demands are too high, reinforcement is too low. So we have to flip it and make reinforcement high. The other thing we need to assess is make sure it's not a medical problem. So if it's happening across the day, you can't really figure out like why she's doing it. If she's alone and she's biting, she's asking for something, she's biting, she's, doesn't want to do something, she's biting. But if it's like you tell her to do something, she's biting, it's probably not a medical. It also could be dental. Biting could be a sign of pain. So all of these things need to be ruled out, which I talk about all of that in my book. Okay, so the next is planning, making sure that everybody is on the same page with how it's going to look. The third step is to intervene, and we want to, or teach. So whatever we plan for, table times are going to be short. How short? Okay, 10 minutes. Maybe we're going to have choice boards to make her, maybe we're going to use like a token system, like the bear system that I talk about in my book, in my courses. Token system. We want to maybe use electronics as one of our 5 reinforcers. Like if you don't have 5 reinforcers at the table, you probably don't have enough reinforcement there. And then the fourth and final step, which is really important, is data. Like what kind of data are you taking? And I know I've covered this in previous lives. This is covered in my book. It's covered a lot of places, is especially for things like biting. If it truly is happening 5 times a day, you might want to get a calendar and you might want to tally how many episodes of biting we have. And you might want to do that in red pen on a calendar. The other thing is sometimes kids bite, but we can find prerequisite or lower level behaviors as precursors to the biting. So if they start whining and you don't let them out of something, then they might go to pounding on the table. And then if you continue on, then they bite. So part of your data collection actually may be also counting in some way, which I go over more in my online courses, like partial interval data, for instance, to take data on those whining, crying, pounding on the table, things that aren't going to get you thrown out of preschool or daycare or break your skin or cause infection. Because biting, human bites are actually pretty dangerous. So we want to do everything in our power to turn that behavior around using the 4-step Turn Autism Around approach. So hopefully that helped you guys see with that question. Okay. So she said, Daria she has a girl. You are right. I think that is what I'm doing to my 4-year-old little girl. Like expecting too much. Like, oh, now she can talk. Let's just bag the reinforcement. Let's just push it. And not tuning in to, she's 4. Have you looked at the CDC milestones? Or you're going to get this book in the next day or 2, hopefully, and you'll be able to look at the milestones. Look at, she's still really delayed. Like if you see she's functioning at a 2 or 3-year-old and maybe she's 4.5, being 4, being almost 5, those are 2 different ages. But regardless, you should be fully conversational, but you can't just keep pushing because it's not going to help if you teach her rote responding. If biting goes up, you got to get the biting down as your number 1. And any other problem behaviors, you got to get them down too. But I think the book is going to be super helpful. And Daria said, thank you. Well, thank you for asking that question. I think it was a good one to ask. Brittany says, can't wait to get your book in the mail tomorrow. We have a 2.5-year-old newly diagnosed autistic toddler. We're struggling so much with her sleeping, constantly getting naked, taking her diaper off and peeing and pooping on the floor. She's a crazy climber and a runner. So we just fenced our yard. Yeah, you're going to need my book. We talk about fences. We talk about sleep. Diaper, taking the diaper off. Lucas used to strip down into nothing. And so some of the things that people have used is like a sleeper, footsie sleeper, or not real with feet in, but up to their ankles, where you could put it on backwards and zip it up to prevent stripping down. And, the book is going to be really helpful. And if you haven't considered our online courses, you're probably going to want to get into that too. Because this is really, you're here, you're listening. Some people like Lily Daisy has been here like literally every day with me. And she's already in our online courses and that sort of thing. But this is in some ways simple, in some ways really complicated. Ria said, did you have bad experience with ABA, or you always have known ABA is what your son needed? That's a good question. I have seen bad ABA, not for Lucas, but I have seen bad ABA, and it's, you know, it is usually well-meaning people who just don't know, and they're like keeping the demand on, having kids, crying, and it's just not what I would recommend. So I'm very interested in changing the field of ABA, to get it to be child friendly, data driven, parent friendly, incorporate the parent and the family values, and work on the whole child and look on the whole picture and look, you know, it's really not going to matter if, like, Daria's 4-year-old child is conversational if she's biting herself 5 times a day, or biting other kids and getting kicked out of school, or restricted placements. And so we really have to look at not just language. We have to look at problem behavior for sure. We have to look at self-care skills. We have to look at the dignity of the child. So we also have to remember that ABA is a science. Applied behavior analysis is a science of changing socially significant behavior, which means behaviors that matter. So ABA as a science is operating just like gravity is operating. And but ABA is also a treatment package for children with autism that has been studied over the years. And in the earlier forms of ABA, there was punishment. There was not real child-friendly ways of doing things. And so it still is the most evidence-based treatment for children with autism, but you can't just say all ABA is good, or all ABA is bad, or all speech therapy is good, or all, that's why I really want the parents to know where their child is at. Do they have a diagnosis? Do they have, what areas are their problems? What's the plan? And then the parent becomes the leader of the team, the captain of the ship, and decides who and how and when and who's going to cover it financially and what you can put together. And no 2 kids are alike. No 2 autism programs are alike. No 2 teams are alike. And it's constantly changing because this therapist gets sick or pregnant, or this one has COVID, and this one's car broke down, or this one quit. And so now you're constantly, and that's another reason where if I know how to teach my child how to keep his clothes on, how to get him eating better, how to get him potty trained, how to get him sleeping, how to get him to talk, how to get him to not bite his arm, then I have the power to be with my child and to be directing other people and training other people. And you don't have to become like a behavior analyst like I did. And that's why my mission now is to empower parents to detect and treat the early signs of autism, and to continue to be the child's best teacher and advocate for life, no matter if it is autism or if it was just a speech delay or whatever it is. I feel terrible. This is Brittany again with the stripping down, getting naked. I feel terrible as she is always in one-piece PJs that zip to keep her from getting naked. When she learns to unzip her clothes, I'm in trouble. She already learned how to unlock our child locks on her dresser, all the light switches in the cupboard locks. And she sounds like she's very hyper. And I would also look at assessing her nutritional status, her sleep status, blood draws for magnesium, zinc, lead levels, any kind of nutritional deficiency, mineral deficiency, vitamin deficiency, if she has got a terrible diet. I had a 2-year-old who was drinking almond milk out of a bottle and eating gluten-free crackers morning, noon, and night. that kind of nutritional status would lead to more hyperactivity, more, agitation potentially. So I would also really look medically at if there's anything going on, to get her to settle down. For Lucas, the developmental pediatrician that diagnosed him, Dr. Copeland, who I did a podcast interview with, he recommended melatonin to help him sleep, to settle Lucas down at night, and he's been on melatonin for over 2 decades. Some clients of mine have tried melatonin and they have nightmares. It gets worse. But for some kids, they just need something to help them settle down. I was at a conference once. They talked about omega-3s settling kids down. Keep looking. It may not just be a behavioral thing. There may be other things that are causing agitation and hyperactivity. Can you talk about whining, please? My son whines many times during the day. Thank you. I'm on your online bundle course as well, and I just love it. Okay, so Tatiana, so whining, just like I went through for the biting, we have to think about when the whining happens, when it doesn't happen. So I have this $1,000 day. So if I gave you $1,000 for a day free of whining, what would you have to do? You'd have to make sure the reinforcement is super high and the demands are super low. Now, you might not be able to get a whine-free day, not drinking wine, but whining, crying. But maybe an hour or 2 hours, what would you do? And if you say, well, my son loves the pool, so he would never whine in the pool, but pool's not realistic because we live in Pennsylvania when you can only have the pool in the summer. Okay, but, or my child loves, amusement parks, but we can't do that all day long, but still you're gathering clues. He likes the pool. He likes the trampoline. He likes amusement parks. He likes juice or water or lemonade or, all those kind of reinforcements that if you put together a program, and you're in the VB bundle, which is awesome, but my book is really going to also help you too, because it's going to really simplify things to go step by step. It doesn't matter where your child's language is at. If they are having a lot of whining, and so ask that question in the group too, in our online community, because we can point you to specific videos within our online courses that might help. Gorgeous said, I've been scared to giving my daughter melatonin for sleep. She's been prescribed with September 2020. Some studies have shown early, like decades ago, that kids with autism really have low serotonin levels, which is related to melatonin, I think. I may be getting that a little messed up. But some studies have shown that melatonin is actually boost your immune system. I know when I had COVID in the fall, and Lucas had it as well. And one of the recommendations from a nutritionist who is a supplement maker was to take a combination of zinc and melatonin because it boosted your immune system. So I did that, and I had a really relatively minor case of it. So I don't know. I mean, do your own research on melatonin. Like I said, for some kids it can backfire, but if your child is not sleeping, that's not good for you or your child either. Okay, so George says, my autistic son is in his mid-30s, lives with me. Can your book help us? Well, it depends, because like my son now is 24 and he has moderate to severe autism, and a lot of my book is going to be not helpful to somebody that old. But if he's still struggling with talking, tantrums, sleep, eating, potty training, it certainly wouldn't hurt the situation. And it might, I have had people say, well, I wish your book was available, 20 years ago. Well, I wish I had the knowledge of this book, because I do think that Lucas would have a different life. But this book will be helpful. Like, you have a 30-year-old son that lives with you that has autism, but I don't know if he's conversational, then this book is probably not for you. But what this book might be helpful for is if you have typically developing children who have grandchildren, nieces and nephews, neighbors. So because you have a son with autism, some people think that, come to you for advice. And I do think that you can give out the book title to help families, especially with young children. Heather said, hard copy, which I ordered ages ago from Amazon Canada, won't be delivered until April 1st to 7th. I know. I ordered a hard copy maybe 2 weeks ago. I have a whole box. I have hard copies, but I just wanted to see. And it says April 7th to May 12th or something. I said to my publisher, it better not, they assure me they actually printed thousands of copies. And then, because the pre-orders are strong, I've gotten a lot of press and podcasts, and they went back a month ago and ordered another 4,000 copies. So they assure me that the situation should be fine, and maybe they said that Amazon typically under promises and over delivers. So maybe it will come to you sooner than that. I hope so. Okay, so just a quick question. How accurate is the ADOS test for a 2-year-old, 3-month-old? My son passed the ADOS, but the neurologist diagnosed him temporarily to hopefully see improvements. I was trained on the ADOS. I think 2-year-old is the limit. I would just treat it like it's autism and get my book, and really I would get the course. I would go roll your sleeves up and try as hard as you can to teach him to point, teach him to talk, teach him to potty train, all of these skills, because it might be what they call now subthreshold autism, or maybe early signs of ADHD or sensory processing issues or learning disabilities, or speech delay, that you could potentially catch him up in some of those areas. So I wouldn't get too hung up. If you get a diagnosis, don't try to get away from it. Give it away right away, because a diagnosis can get you therapists to come in, behavior analysts to come in if you're in the United States. It's covered in many states. I'm wondering if you prefer the STAT or the MCHAT. I am much more familiar with the MCHAT. Do you use both? Yeah, good question, Heather. I have a video blog on the MCHAT. I have a video blog on the ADOS. So after this, you can search Mary Autism ADOS or Mary Autism MCHAT. I do recommend the MCHAT in my book. I also recommend the STAT in my book. So the MCHAT is a 23 questionnaire screening tool that a lot of pediatricians use now. And the STAT is like a mini ADOS, and it is actually, it takes a certified practitioner. I was certified back in 2005, and you run, I think there's 12 subtests, including the doll subtest and the bubble blowing subtest. And now you can get certified online. When I did it, I had to fly down to Nashville and got certified by Wendy Stone. I did meet with Wendy Stone about what I wrote about the STAT in my book to make sure it was okay. And she created the STAT, but she left Vanguard. So I think Vanguard holds the copyright and does the online training. So if you do work in a lot of early intervention, I would say getting certified in the STAT would be really good. unlike the ADOS, it doesn't have to be as standardized. You can do it in homes with like messy environments, where the ADOS is like strict. You have to do it in a sterile room. You have to use their kit. You have to use their forms. You have to get, if you're doing it for research, you have to get research trained. So I find the stat to be really good for little 2 and 3-year-olds. Really good. All right. Chris says, so my son can sing nursery rhymes, count from 1 to 20, say his ABCs and colors, but he doesn't communicate as he should. I don't know if it's autism or he's just lazy. I would say it is not laziness. It is either a developmental delay, a developmental disorder like autism, ADHD, speech delays. But there is a lot of reason why you should get the book and really investigate autism, because there's a lot you can do, especially if he is 2 or 3 and not really communicating well. So TurnAutismAround.com is where you want to go. Just says, I am in an undergrad ABA program. Any advice on how I can be successful in the field? My 8-year-old is nonverbal, and I'm so excited to get your book. We have lots of parents turned professionals in our online community. So I'd say after you read the book, I think your best bet, and it's great that you're in undergrad ABA, your best bet would be to join our online course and community, so you can learn really child-friendly, systematic ways to increase good behaviors like we want, like talking, and decrease problem behaviors. Okay. This person said, in the state of Florida, Medicaid was ordered to pay for early intensive ABA instead of just eclectic approach. This was back in 2012, still not widely known. Yeah, and I know, like many states, all the 50 states now have legislation just to make insurance carriers cover ABA for kids with autism. But if you're self-insured, like if you work for a hospital systems that's self-insured and stuff, or there's co-pays, there's a lot of red tape, and it's still not completely proven. But yeah, the more savvy you are as a parent, the more you can get treatment that's really going to help. Heather said, sadly, I've seen bad ABA too. Yeah. And we really need to change that. And I decided to really take the stance of, I am going to go directly to the parents who have the most to win, the most to lose, who are the most motivated, who are up all night trying to find a way, who are sleep deprived, don't know what to do, like I didn't know what to do 2 decades ago when Lucas started showing signs. So I'm going to go directly to the parents and the grandparents and whoever else, and there's plenty of professionals here who are on the mission with me, and we are going to change the way autism is detected and treated by going directly to the parents. The parents are going to change and demand change within the systems, and there's a lot of change that's needed. So, and I see somebody from my team, Marisol, is posting some of the blogs I mentioned. Thank you, Marisol, for being here. She's our awesome customer support person and has been awesome. What are your thoughts on counseling for a 6-year-old with autism? I usually work with kids who are not conversational. So if they're not conversational, I would not really spend a lot of time in counseling. It's more about improving independence with self-care and talking and reducing tantrums. Counseling for a fully conversational child who's having psychological, psychiatric issues, mental health issues, I'm all for that. But my population is more for the kids who are not conversational yet. Brittany said, this is the child, 2.5-year-old, I think, who takes off her clothes and pees on the floor. And I said, she sounds really hyper. So I would check her blood. And she said she's super picky about food and texture. She will only eat breaded chicken, hot dogs as meat. She will eat dry cereal, pancakes, French toast, yogurt. She will eat fresh fruits or veggies. She will eat it fresh. So I had to go back to toddler fruit and veggie pouches. We don't do juices nor anything much with sugar and zero red dye. We have tried kids' melatonin before, and she would fight sleep so bad and become violent. And when she finally falls asleep, she would wake up screaming inconsolable in a few hours and be up the rest of the night. Yeah. So, I really might go, read my book. There's also a great podcast interview with Dr. Keith Williams from the Hershey Medical Center feeding program. He's an international feeding expert. And he's seeing kids with severe nutritional deficiencies. We really need to make sure that your daughter isn't having nutritional deficiencies or excesses in lead or mercury or cadmium and just all kinds of things that can wreak havoc on young brains. So you may want to consult with a feeding department at a teaching hospital, children's hospital near you. You may want to I did a podcast interview with Denise Voigt, who's a pediatric functional medicine nutritionist. She does some online consultations, but I would not just treat it behaviorally, because it sounds like it could be nutritional deficiencies that might be contributing. So, all right. Well, I think I answered a lot of questions. I went for really long tonight. So thanks for those of you sticking with me. This is the night before the book launch. So if you haven't gotten it yet, TurnAutismAround.com will direct you to the book page there. And for those of you that pre-order the book, you should be getting an email. Check your emails. You should be getting all the book resources. So in chapter 1 or 4, chapter 4, where I say, here's a 1-page assessment. This is how you do it. Go to TurnAutismAround.com for all the book resources, including the 1-page assessment and everything. They're all going to be emailed to you. So check your email. If you haven't ordered the book or given us your email and your name, we'll need that to send you all the resources. So make sure you check your email. Make sure when you get the book, take a screenshot of you holding the book. Put it up in this group or in the launch team, wherever you're at. And also, if and when you do an Amazon review or a review on Barnes & Noble online, take a screenshot if you can and post that too, and then submit, because sometimes it gets denied or there's a lag. Let us know what you liked about the book. We just need to get the momentum out there, and the algorithms. If we get 100 reviews on Amazon in the next week, it'll spike the algorithm. It will put the book in front of more people, get more momentum going. So I would appreciate anybody that can give a favorable Amazon review to get us going. I will be here live tomorrow. I'll actually be here live at noon Eastern time tomorrow. So it might not be convenient to the Australians listening, but I am also going to plan to go into the book launch team tomorrow at 6 p.m., I think, Eastern time. So I'm going to go live twice tomorrow, both to celebrate the launch of my book, once in here at noon Eastern time, and then once at night. So I hope to see you then. Thanks so much for hanging in here, and thanks so much for being here for so many nights in a row with me. Those of you that have joined really excited, really want to get this book out to everyone. I'm excited for those of you to read it that have ordered it. I think it's really going to change a lot of lives, and we'll see. So have a good night. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.